Happy Wednesday. Thanks for coming to Scoping Out today. We are talking about next steps, how to get unstuck when stuck actually kind of feels pretty good. You know, last week we talked about kind of evaluating. I was sort of in a cruising space and I didn't really have any big things I was working on, any big epiphanies that I wanted to share. And I thought, well, you know, sometimes it's not always about fixing a problem. Sometimes it's about looking at what you've done right and well and what you want to do more of. And that's what we talked about last week. Well, this week, you know, I wanted to move forward in my business. We started the Fail to Win class, and that was the January class. And those of you who came to this class through the when you bought the Conscious Transitions, you saw something. It was a video presentation that gave you some free tips and tricks that are pieces of that Fail to Win course. Well, that also had a January date in it, right? So I need to re-record that with the September information and maybe even some different tips and tricks. So what it made me do is go back and ask, what problem am I solving? Me as a practitioner, right? Actually, I should probably introduce myself first. I'll get to that in a second. But me as a practitioner in my business, I really wanted to be able to get to the point where I'm really answering the needs of my clientele and the needs of potential clientele and the needs of anybody out there who's looking to build big dreams or better their life or even just find some sort of fulfillment and answer about some of the things that they do. So my name is Triffany. It's just like Tiffany with an R. You can find me at triffanyhammond.com. I am a certified professional life coach. I help high-powered women who have all those trappings of success but haven't figured out that happiness piece. I give them the tools that help them shift their perspective, build great things from an easier place, and life just gets easy. I had someone tell me yesterday, working with you is like effing magic. Like, oh, can I use that as a testimonial? That's kind of awesome. So that's what I do. The reason that I do this particular scope is to show and illustrate real-time, real life in a way that I'm not breaking anybody else's confidentiality, how even somebody like me who builds and develops these tools for others, I still use them. I still need the work. None of us is exempt from this human experience and the work that it takes to be our best. So that's the purpose of Scoping Out. Thank you. I'm so glad you like it. So what we're talking about today then, especially on the heels of kind of being in that cruising point, that's a pretty comfortable place to be. All your systems are working. You're not really extending yourself. You know, you're not stretching and pushing any of your boundaries. That actually can kind of feel pretty comfortable. You're like, yeah, I got to take a beat. That's good. And it is good. And we want to celebrate and relish those times. Everything we do in life has dormancy as a piece of its cycle. Everything. Trees and grass go dormant in the winter. We sleep at night. Our success is no different. There are times when things just kind of get to a still point. Now, two things happen when we get to that still point. Some people feel really uncomfortable with it. They feel like if we're not go, go, go all the time, then we're not really committed and we're not really working. Is that you? You're not the only one. It used to be me. That's how I got myself, I go-go-go'd myself straight into illness is what I did. And then the other side of it is some people go, oh, I can finally take a break, and then they never kick it back into gear. So that's one thing I'm really conscious of myself, especially having been so far to that first end, you know, go, 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 and feeling guilty when it's time to take a break and working myself into illness. Now I always want to watch myself and make sure that I'm not swinging so far to the other side that I get so comfortable and complacent. I'm not pushing myself. So this was the impetus. Good, I'm glad. This was the impetus for this conversations that I've been having the last several days. It's interesting because it doesn't always come up in an obvious context. I'll give you an example. Let me move my selfie stick. So Monday I had breakfast coffee with a friend of mine who is one of the most brilliant minds on the planet. I love her to death. And we were talking about the hero's journey. And I don't know if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell's work at all, but he wrote Hero of a Thousand Faces, I think is the name of it. But he deconstructed all kinds of mythology into this archetypal hero's journey about what happens when we embark on a journey. Well, first we deny it. First we say, nope, you got the wrong guy. Can't be me. I'm just Joe Blow, right? And then we take the journey, and then we get stuck, and then we get, it's called magical help. We get these magical helpers that come. Maybe it's Merlin, or it's, you know, Yoda, or we get these helpers that come along and say, it's okay, I got you. I'm going to help you through this, right? And so Joseph Campbell, what he did through this is he showed this story arch of what happens to the hero as he decides to take this journey, and what ultimately brings him back to himself and coming home, and the inevitable, you know, woohoo, I'm a hero, it's successful. And one of my contentions, I was talking to my friend Suzanne about this, and one of my contentions, I think it's really valuable, and when we overlap it with our life, I think it's really good too, because it helps us shift our frame of reference just a little bit. Okay, who are my helpers? Where am I a helper to somebody else's journey? How does that help me being a helper on my journey, right? Like it brings up those questions and an awareness to your life that I think is super helpful. But my biggest contention with it is, according to that particular story arc, it looks like we only commit to the journey once. And this wasn't in the context of my business, it was just book talk with a friend. And it's something that I've talked about with pretty much every workshop I've ever done, is that every journey we decide to take that comes from a deeper place, that comes from a deep calling to do it, we'd never ever just commit to that journey once. We commit to it probably 1,000, maybe 10,000 times. We commit to it when things get really, really hard and we decide to push ourselves harder. We commit to it when we have those off times, those dormant periods, and it's time to rev back up and get to it. We commit to it every time we decide to learn something, even if it doesn't seem directly related. We commit every time we push ourselves to our larger journey every single time. Now, for me personally, my business is part of my larger journey, which is why I bring this up today. But that may not be the case for you. Maybe you don't have a business, but you have, you're a parent. How many times have you had to recommit to being the best parent you can be? Because you're also a fallible human being, because you also get tired, because you also have needs, and sometimes it's mom's turn and all of those things, right? So the reason I'm bringing this up is we get to treat ourselves well during those times when we have gotten stuck, when we have gotten lost, when we have forgotten what that calling is, why we're doing it, who we're doing it for. Is it even really for us, or is this all about everybody else, and where am I in this, right? And there is the tendency, especially for women, to hear a message from the world that says it doesn't get to be about you. Your journey is not fulfilled unless you have made someone else feel fulfilled. Your journey is not fulfilled unless you have done X, Y, and Z for a partner, for your kids, for your neighbor, for the list goes on and on. And while our participation in a community it's so important and vital to all of us, that's not strictly a women's issue, that we all benefit when we come together as a community and we build something and we grow something. There's no doubt about that. But that doesn't happen as a mutually exclusive piece from the self-care. It doesn't happen from a mutually it doesn't happen completely separate. It's not one or the other. It's not a toggle switch. We get to do both. We get to constantly look at both. So when we sit down and we go, hey, this marriage isn't fulfilling me, what needs to change? That's a recommitment. And it's a recommitment to that deeper calling of being the best you. Now, sometimes that recommitment looks like a recommitment to the marriage. Sometimes that recommitment looks like, I need to refuel myself. For whatever reason this is draining me right now, I need to go refuel over here. That's still a commitment to the marriage, because you're going to go fill up your gas tank, right? You're going to go fill up your bucket so that you've got something to give in the marriage. That doesn't necessarily mean, it actually doesn't mean at all, that it's a selfish move. And I think this is really, really important for us to remember, the difference between self-care and self-absorption. Do you understand? We always want to broaden our view, look at a bigger picture, step back from the problem at hand and recommit from a broader understanding of the thing that we're facing. Does that make sense? I saw some hearts. I'm glad that made sense to you. So in the context of this, in my case, my business, right? The next conversation I had was, this was my first recommitment was even noticing as I'm talking to that first friend, right? Oh, wait, this came up. So where does this mean anything for me? And then I sit down to do the work of re-recording that particular video. And I thought, you know, there's an opportunity here for me to recommit to the people I help, recommit to my business, recommit to myself as a creator of content. And so I asked a friend, I said, what problem is it do you think I solved? Now, I have been asking this question for 3 years for this particular business as I've went from financial coach to personal life coach, right? So I've been asking this question, trying to hone in, trying to really dial it down so that I could get clear and specific about who I help and why. And so I opened it up again. What problem do you think I solved? And we ended up in this conversation that at first was like, we ran the same circles we've always run. And then together, well, I have to say, she found the common thread. Thank goodness for helpers. Here's our magical helpers. Thank you, Joseph Campbell. We found this common thread between everything that I did. So I have this whole new perspective now. Now, that doesn't discount all of the things that I do outside of this one little realm, but I have a new perspective. I have a new way to communicate about it. I have a new way to search for the truth of that in myself, in others, in my content, right? And that to me is invaluable, not only in the commitment I've made to my clientele, but the commitment I've made to myself to grow and be the best me that I can be. So I hope that makes sense. And I have to tell you, this friend, you've heard me give her shout outs before. She's absolutely incredible. She's on the scope today. Colleen Kelly with Suburbia Dropout. So you want to go to suburbiadropout.com and check her out. She helps, she actually really makes some awesome things just because it's what fuels her. Oh shoot, what's it called? Upscaling things and repurposing things for your home, and they're beautiful. And she does it because she loves it. Well, what she found, what she found is that there are a lot of people out there doing that don't know the ins and outs of business. So she's developing programs that helps people make viable businesses out of the things that they love. So you want to check her out, Colleen Kelly at Suburbia Dropout. She's amazing, and she was the one who helped me. So look for your magical helpers. Look for how you are a magical helper, and stay present to the different ways that you recommit to your journey as a human being, as a business owner, as a partner in marriage, as a parent, whatever leg of the journey you're on. Remember, there's always an opportunity to recommit. There's always an opportunity to grow yourself. I'll give you one more thing. Before that, I want to give you the calendar of events. Today at 9 a.m. here in just a few minutes, Fail to Win. If you're a member or if you're a student of that, come join us. We've got our phone call today. And later at 11 a.m., if you are a conscious transition student, we have office hours. Tomorrow is the Inside Scope. So scoping out is the thing I do weekly that just gives you some insight into what this looks like real time to use these tools and these small perspective shifts. But the Inside Scope is all yours. You ask a question, and on the Inside Scope, I answer it. So you want to submit your question and potentially be on the next Inside Scope. Tomorrow, we're talking about why do we procrastinate and how can we get more organized and stop procrastinating. It's going to be a good one, especially for the new year. And then next Wednesday at 8:30, obviously we've got Scoping Out every Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. Mountain Time. That's what you're watching right now. And at 11, if you're a lovely member, we've got group coaching next Wednesday at 11. So before I go, I want to give you this other little insight. That same friend I was talking to on Monday, she asked me, she says, you didn't have magical helpers right away when you were younger. How did you learn from others' mistakes? How did you become that person who could, with seemingly little help, get through that leg of your journey? And, I think the answer is kind of what we talked about last week. I got curious. And this is what I want to encourage you guys. You want to get curious about yourself. Don't stand in right and wrong. Don't stand in, I've invested so much time, I have to stay here. I have to keep moving forward. Don't stand in staunchness about yourself or your life. Get curious. Look at yourself as much as you can. You'll never be totally objective, but look at yourself as much as you can from an outsider's perspective and see what's awesome about yourself. See what could be nudged in yourself. See what could be stretched in yourself. Not from a place of judgment, not from a place of, oh, I really should be better. Oh, I really should be more grateful. Oh, not from that place, but from I wonder what would happen if. I wonder what is possible when. And when you do that, you end up in that same situation that I was in yesterday going, I think I'm doing a pretty good job. How could I do better? Is there a way for me to do this in a way that's fun and stretchy but good and like a good workout, I want you to shift your perspective from should to could. What could you do? What is possible when? How might you be able to? And reframe those questions for yourself so that you can at the same time learn to stretch, but also allow for those periods that are necessary, those dormant periods that are necessary for things to consolidate and gel and get right, and so that you have the energy to move forward when it's time to move forward. So that's the final tip for today. I am so glad you're here. I want you to click subscribe so that you don't miss a single one of these, and let me know how you're doing with your curiosity, with your journey, with your asking questions and moving forward, and what stuck even looks like for you. I would love to be able to know how to help you more, and that feedback is going to help me do that. So leave a comment, drop me an email, send me a question for Inside Scope, and let's stay in touch. I'll see you next week, or actually hopefully tomorrow at the Inside Scope, 9 a.m. To answer your questions. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.